to dip, blip, blip, blip. Hold on.
Stop.
I like the song too much. I like the crowd too much. I can't just get rid of them.
Take two.
Take dos.
Take two.
Buenos dias, muchacho. Hey, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. On
wow.
today's episode,
We're going international.
we are. On today's episode, hey, we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk about this thing called life.
A pastor and a psychologist.
And as a pastor, the most important question that can be asked, well, I'm about to ask you.
All righty, here on Just These Guys, you know, I have no idea what's coming up, but should be good.
Yeah, come in here and we have a little bit of small talk just to, kind of get reacquainted every week. And then we head into the episode based on, like, I'll come in and I'll say, well, you got anything?
Right.
And I'm sure this really, draws the people to want to hear
Right.
exactly what we have diligently prepared, thoughtfully pursued to be able to share. But
Inside baseball, we don't prepare.
no,
From the hip,
both hips,
off the cuff.
from both hips. Well, so my question that I wanted to ask you is
Now, is this a question?
launch into this?
Is this a question you would have asked in the small talk period before the show got going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
It was like the red for record and.
Well, and because I think that, we're all good to go.
Okay.
I did my one button. And so.
After destroying the microphone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a question that you can ask somebody, but in small talk. But I think that it is a critical question that can possibly then lead to, a richer, deeper discussion if you're willing to sit with it.
Okay.
And really kind of give it some time, give it some attention, like ask it genuinely, not just in passing. So if you're going to ask,
You see my defenses came up here.
yep. If you're going to ask, be willing to sit with them
Okay.
on it. And it's a simple question, but it is a deep question. But we usually ask it in passing. See how much I can stretch this out. And the question is simply this, because I don't really ask you this very often. Come in, we get going and we talk and this and that, but I don't ask you this question. And it is this: how are you doing? Mm-hmm.
Well, I've told you that Pastor Wallace told the congregation one time, and it was like, if I ask you how you're doing, just say I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
I'm just being nice.
People pull up their shirt and show me their scars.
Right.
How am I doing? And,
Yeah.
and you want a genuine answer.
Yeah, a genuine answer. How are you doing?
A
Because there have
question
been,
I've not prepared an answer for.
there have been a lot of changes all around you. And you stay so head down, focused, on where you're headed. You're constantly in the middle of doing something.
Sure.
It's rare that you kind of slow down to come up for air. And so I'm just curious, how are you doing?
It's been a huge transformation.
Yeah.
Transformation. It's monumental for me personally to go from the career I had for 20, 25 years, working with child custody cases, angry people, violence, drugs, alcohol, a lot of appearances in court, a lot of a role as an expert in criminal court, federal court, civil court, state court, and that population and working with attorneys and doing evaluations and being prepared to, kind of be responsible for whatever you write in a legal setting. And, these reports will have long-term impacts on the individual, their spouses, their families, their children. And so that, was the role that I served for so many years. And then to step out of that and go out to work with veterans exclusively. Um, my initial thought was when I accepted that role was this is just simply going to be changing offices. That I'll instead of sitting here on West Central, I'll be sitting there on East Kellogg. And I even told the judges and the attorneys, nothing's going to change. I'll still work with you guys on the side. Relax, it's going to be okay. But when I got out there and got into that role, it's a completely different world. And it's I'm learning more about myself, parts of me coming alive that haven't been alive for 30, 40 years.
Hmm.
When I left the military, my family was military. My father was military. My brother was Army. My cousins were Air Force. My grandfather was Navy. We were a military family. And then I went in. And when I left the military after 8 years to go to graduate school, I essentially just kind of treated it as a former job. I used to work at Lowe's, and now I'm going back to school to learn a new trade craft to go work somewhere else. And so the military training culture, everything that I've grown up with and experienced with, you know, I think was part of me and part of me that made me strange to other people.
Sure.
Why do you get up so early? Why do you do so much? Why do you dress like that? Um, my yes is yes, my no is no.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was just, Lance, but I'd never connected it in any real shape or form to having served in the military. But now that I've started working with veterans, I really, that part of me has come back alive again. The importance of the military service and recognizing what it is these guys and women have done and what they're capable of. And so when I see a homeless veteran, it breaks my heart, not because I feel sad for him, but I know who he is,
Hmm.
not who he once was. I know who he is. And I was telling you this morning as you walked in the door, kind of bragging about our military and what they did recently to have an eyewitness on the ground see what our military is capable of and to flip and freak out and say to the world, do not mess with the U.S. because it just blew him away. A soldier from another country saw us in action and said, "Holy crap! Nobody knows what they're messing with here," and that's the men and women that Passageway serves that have fallen on the hard times, fallen and just needed a break. But that's who they are because we might see the airplane in the air, we might hear about the special forces going in, but behind that one person flying the plane or those 20 guys in special forces, there's thousands of people doing their job with the utmost professionalism and precision to make it all happen so extremely smooth.
Hmm.
And those individuals, they really are a cut above the rest of society. Uh, they're just stellar human beings. As Passageway says, they're heroes.
Hmm.
They've got great honor, courage. They're disciplined. They have focus and commitment, and they see the bigger picture in everything. Um, they know what it's all about. Why am I, out here digging this ditch? Well, it's not because the ditch needs to be dug. It's because they see the global order. They understand America's position in the world and what the overall mission is, and digging that ditch is part of that overall mission. And so they dig that ditch with pride.
Hmm.
And they wear their uniform with pride, not because they want people to look at them, but that attention to detail that they give their uniform is representative of the attention to detail they give their job. And so that's been a really big transition and reawakening inside of me to let that part of myself come back alive that I'd really, not paid attention to that much for the past 20, 30 years. Um, I never, in private practice, I never led with, hey, I was in the military. It just wasn't relevant to the civilian population I was working with. I'd get an occasional veteran or two, and I would mention
Yeah.
at some point that I'd served, but that would be kind of the end of the conversation. And now it's not that I'm out there going, hey, I'm a veteran or anything like that. But when they walk in the door, and this is the deal, to a man, to a woman, they all talk about, it's hard to connect with civilians. The way they think, what they value, the way they approach matters is different
Yeah.
than how civilians do all of that. And the things they've seen and the things they've done, obviously, they've had a different life experience than, their friends back home or people they're meeting. And so there is very much a military culture that makes it difficult sometimes to mesh with civilians. And so it's just been all of that to say that it has consumed all of my mental energy. There is almost zero extracurricular happening besides this podcast
Sure.
outside of working hours, because it's just I've been amazed at how much of my mind it has taken. And I really feel he can take a mess and make a masterpiece. And who knows, one day we'll find out what the plan was. But it took something to get me to go into the military, because I wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
And while I was in the military, that is where I got introduced to the field of psychology.
Mm.
And they, soured the teat. I was not interested in being I did not want to be a psychologist. I wanted to make the military career. I wanted to be an officer, do my 20, retire, get out, have a retirement income. That was kind of the plan. But the way things happened, it really pushed me out of the military. I had to make a decision, stay in, do 20, get out, pursue graduate studies. And I couldn't sleep until I made the decision to roll the dice, get out, apply to graduate school, hope to get in, and got in. So there's a plan here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2005, I can recall trying to apply to the VA, wanting to see if I could, get on with the hospital out there and work out there. And it was like there was a fog over my eyes and my brain. I could not even find a job posting board for how to get a job at the VA. And I spent a month, and I started making phone calls, just random phone calls out to the VA. Hey, how do you apply for a job out there? And I just, it wouldn't happen. And I finally gave up, trying to find a job at the VA. That was 2005.
Mm.
So to have somebody randomly reach out to me in 2025 and say, hey, you want to come work out here?
Yeah. Well, God kept the door shut in 2005
And
then opened it wide open because you weren't even looking to go in
but
last year.
No, I was very happy, a good practice, thriving practice, doing lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
The practice supported me doing other things. Practice wasn't the focus of my life. You know, being the age that I am, started thinking a bit about, will there be retirement within the next 10 or 15 years? How will that look? Do I need to start saving?
Oh, you're not old enough yet to worry about that.
So, the idea of starting a second career, third career, just wasn't in the cards. So it was a shock.
Mm.
I thought it was a spam. I thought it was phishing. Somebody catfishing me or whatever. You scamming me.
Mm-hmm.
Just send us $1,000. We'll help you get a job. No, it was just, hey, do you want a job out here? And it happened so easily, so smoothly.
Mm.
Whereas in the past, it was just not even possible.
Yeah.
And now it was just as easy as could be. So, yeah, Tasha and I talked about it, and it was like, it's right there. It's there for the taking. It must be, part of his plan.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you to say no?
Yeah. Well, to circle back around then to Pastor Wallace,
Yeah.
and you said that a lot of times he would say, if I ask you, how are you doing? Just say fine. Well, the story that I remember most vividly about him is, and it's not just from one person, but it's from several people, that he would actually very intentionally look you in the eye often and say, how are you doing in Jesus?
Mhm.
And so, how are you doing in Jesus? You feel like this whole thing is God inspired and God led. He's connected all the dots. He's taking you where you're going and where you're at.
Right. And, we've had the conversation before, and not that everybody out there listens to everything, remembers everything we said. I always, I'm a guy, I hate repeating myself.
Mm-hmm.
But, in 2014, when I really changed the direction of my life, and initially I was doing it, by whatever, I just did things. There was no plan whatsoever. And then there came a period in my life where I was doing what I was supposed to do. And then, um, tried doing it for others, and that didn't work either. So around 2014 is when I kind of broke down and said, well, maybe I ought to see what his plan is.
Mm-hmm.
And started studying the Bible and listening to Pastor Creflo Dollar a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And basically just spending every day in the Word, starting the day in the Word, and opening my mind, which meant dumping a lot of other stuff out and just saying, you lead today. And then just letting the mind be still and being open to that as I walk out the door.
Sure.
I don't know where I'm going today, but I'm getting in the car. Is this right? You want me to go left? You want me to go right? You want me to go to work today? You want me to? But really, in 2014, started trying to live that way and listen every day for what his guidance was. And that's when everything just changed, whippity snappity. Pew, pew, pew. So many huge changes came into my life in early 2015, and things aligned and things got taken care of. And it's just been the craziest, most fun, hardest working period since 2015 of my life. But it feels, I'm going to say I have direction, but I feel there is a direction, and I'm very comfortable living in the moment. People say, you're going to go on vacation next year? I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
How long are you going to work at the VA? 20 years. I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm really, kind of honed in on this idea of you wake up in the morning and your first thought is, what do you want for me to do today?
Mm-hmm.
How can I serve you today? That, honestly, as corny as that sounds, that is my first thought when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah. Well, that's a surrendered posture. I'm not going to jump out and try to lead, try to lead this day. I'm going to find out how you want me to follow and where you want this to go. But the thing is, it's a surrendered posture. People think, okay, well, I can just kick back and do nothing. It's the surrender creates with it an intentional approach, like your intentionality, which is that's your modus operandi. You are an intentional person, but the intentionality starts with that question, putting Christ in your mind right out of the gate in the morning. And that sets the tone, that calibrates you.
And it's going back to allowing the military to be a part of my culture again, my lifestyle, my mentality, that those two go hand in hand, because,
Mm-hmm.
In the military, you wake up every day and, Sergeant, what do you want me to do today? Petty officer, what do you want me to do today? I mean, you may have a plan for your day, but your senior leaders may have different plans, and those plans can change and change and change all throughout the day. But as an enlisted person, your job is to, yes, sir. And, let's go left. Yes, sir. And boop, let's go right. Yes, sir. I mean, there's no arguing, no doubt, no question. What the last order doesn't exist anymore because I got a new order, so I'm doing this. So that surrendered mentality that the military culture has, ethos, and you see it even as high as Pete Hegseth.
Mm.
Pete Hegseth is executing the plan that his boss, and if his boss changes his mind, Pete Hegseth doesn't bitch and complain and gripe about it. He changes how he approaches. It's yes, sir.
Right.
And so that military culture of surrender, I think, fits nicely with the spiritual culture of surrender. This isn't my life. This isn't my body. This isn't my plan. I can't run the world. So if you're in charge, what is it you want me to do today to help you as you run the world? And so that, you said at the outset of all of this, you ask people, how you doing? And you never ask it seriously, and people don't ever answer it seriously. And as I'm answering you seriously, I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
Well, that's because it's actually a deep question.
It is.
If we really stop to consider it, I'm about to sneeze.
Uh-oh. No sneeze. It's
I
when
fought it off.
when you call it out, it goes away.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a question that gets asked all the time in passing, but it actually is a very deep question if we will take the time to sit with it and really consider it and ponder it. And but the most important aspect of how are you doing is truly how are you doing in Christ. The most important thing that we've got, no matter our career, no matter and this is the pastor. This right here is a pastor hat right now. That's what this is. Chevrolet pastor hat. But the most important aspect to our lives is not just who we are, but why we're here and then where are we headed.
Right.
And so I was reading earlier this morning, and we can kind of, if you want, we can wrap this up with this. Yeah. But this scripture that I'm about to read is all about spiritual growth. So we can have growth in career, we can have growth in family, we can have growth in all that. And it's included in this, but the most important thing for us is our spiritual growth. This world is advancing every single day towards an end. And the reality is that that's all a part of God's plan. And we want to continue to understand that and not just have it as a part of our future, but have it as something every day, just like you talked about.
Yeah.
You wake up every day. But there's 3 words that I'm going to end this with that's in the Message translation of the Bible out of 1 Peter chapter 2, chapter 1, 1 Peter 2, verse 1. and now, let me get this right. 2 Peter 1.
A whole lot of numbers here.
Good grief. But here's what it says. And this is a word for all of us. So I'm asking you, how are you doing? And so Simon Peter, he says this. He says, I, Simon Peter, am a servant and apostle of Jesus Christ. So he immediately hits you with his identity. This is who he is.
Yes.
And who he is leads him to everything he does.
Who he is leads to how he does it.
Yep. And so it says, I write this to you whose experience with God is as life-changing as ours. He says, all due to our God's straight dealing and the intervention of our God and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grace and peace to you many times over as you deepen your experience with God and Jesus, our Master. It says, everything that goes into a life of pleasing God has been miraculously given to us by getting to know personally and intimately the one who invited us to God, the best invitation we ever received. We were also given absolutely terrific promises to pass on to you your tickets to participation in the life of God after you turned your back on a world corrupted by lust. It says, so don't lose a minute in building on what you've been given, complementing your basic faith with good character. So these build faith. It starts with faith and then it builds.
Yeah.
But it builds intentionally. Just like someone in the military lives very intentionally, it builds. And it says faith, it says complementing your basic faith with good character, spiritual understanding, alert discipline, passionate patience, reverent wonder, warm friendliness, and generous love. Each dimension fitting into and developing the others. It says, with these qualities, so this is what it looks like to be a part of the army of Christ. But it says, with these qualities active and growing in your lives, no grass will grow under your feet. No day will pass without its reward as you mature in your experience of our Master Jesus. Without these qualities, you can't see what's right in front of you, oblivious that your old sinful life has been wiped off the books. And then here it is. It says, so friends, you've told us this many times. So friends, confirm God's invitation to you, his choice of you. Don't put it off.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 3 words?
Do it now.
Yes, do it now. That's the invitation for all of us to dive into the richest life possible. And that is a life of purpose following.
Now, before you hit the button, wait 1 second. For the audience, imagine for just a second if you read something like that at the start of every morning.
Mm-hmm.
How might your day go differently? Just takes 15 minutes a day.
Yep. Completely different. Good stuff.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Doc. Glad you're doing well. And glad you all stuck with us today. Woo! It is an awesome day.
We're just these guys, you know. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Mike.
Y'all have an awesome week.
See you next week.